How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and welcome to the best heavy tank in World of Tanks console Modern Armour, where we look at, of course, the T57 Heavy. This is one of my most played tanks within the game, which is probably why it's making it as the best heavy tank in my opinion. That's just because it has pretty much everything that you could possibly really want in a heavy tank. Yes, there are probably more heavy tanks within the game on World of Tanks that have some better attributes for pure heavy playstyle, but this one just packs that punch. The 1600 alpha damage that you can do with the 4-shot autoloader that only takes 21.5 seconds to actually fully reload. Obviously, then you have an extra 6 seconds to unload your clip. But essentially, what's that? 28 seconds, roughly speaking, to be able to fully unload 1600 alpha from zero. Now, that is absolutely ridiculous for an autoloader, meaning that you have a probably effective DPM of about 3600 within the game if you manage to just fire as soon as you reload, you know, that sort of thing. Whereas in realistic terms, you're probably not going to be able to just reload and fire every single time you actually fully reload. Now, what does the T57 really have over a lot of the other heavy tanks? Well, that is, of course, having that pack-a-punch, the 1600 alpha. That's more than any other heavy tank at this tier, other than the 50B, which also gets that autoloader that you can fire multiple shots with, and of course you get the Kranvang within the game as well. The good thing that the T57 has over the Krangvan and the AMX50B is not its speed, because it is fairly slow. 35 kilometers an hour forward is definitely not getting you up to the front lines very, very quickly, and that's where the 50B really takes prowess over this tank, and where the Kranvang also gets that advantage. However, what this tank does feature is that more accurate gun. You can unload your clips much nicer within the game, and if we compare the actual statistics of the other tanks within the game in terms of the 50B, which are I guess it's the most similar vehicle to the 57 Heavy in the terms of how it actually plays within the game and the sort of shots that you'll be taking. Of course, the 50B gets a 2.5 second intra-clip reload, which means that to unload all of your shells, it takes 7.5 seconds. That 0.5 seconds between shells, so, you know, extra, might not seem a lot, but trust me, when you're in the game and you're having to then wait an extra half a second where someone may or may not reload their tracks or repair their tracks even, and then they're trying to pull back away from a corner, and then you get that extra half a second where you're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and then suddenly they're behind the corner and you can no longer pump out those extra 3 shots where you would have penned them through the track again, tracked them, and then you could have unloaded the next 2 in like sequence essentially. Whereas when you've got that extra 5.5 of a second, that doesn't always happen, and so you lose out on quite a bit of damage, or at least that's what I think within the game. 0.35 accuracy on the AMX50B, that is of course stock compared to the, I don't actually know what it is on this, but we've got 0.31, but that's with the Commander, so you're probably looking around the same sort of accuracy. A 2.78 second aim time is a bit disappointing on the 57 Heavy, but you know, you're probably going to be seeing that with a lot of these tanks, and that's kind of their balancing point, is that they're not necessarily the most accurate tanks, but if you can make them really accurate within the game, then you'll have a significant advantage. Both of them have 3-second aim time. It's just that I've got a Commander with all of the perks that enable you to increase that sort of thing, along with ventilation on my crew as well, in my equipment slot. Now that we've kind of compared the two tanks over the kind of playstyles that you want to be using, whether or not you want to be a faster tank that can get around the battlefield a little bit quicker in the 50B, but you have absolutely no armour, the advantage of the 57 Heavy comparatively is, of course, the accuracy, like we've mentioned, and the intricate reload speed that you actually have with this tank over the 50B, and its armour model, which is so much better. Yes, you're probably not going to be able to bounce a whole lot of rounds because the turret cheeks of the T57 Heavy are a little bit weak, and the majority of players, if they know the weak point being those big bulbous things at the bottom right and the bottom left of the turret, if they manage to shoot there, you will get penned for the majority of time. And the hull armour, if they manage to hit the upper plate, they're most likely going to be bouncing because it is just quite well angled. You have massive tracks that can absorb a lot of the heat rounds that come in. One problem is that if actually people have a little bit of brain power behind them, they can actually hit your engine deck, overmatch it and pen you even if you side scrape. So you see that kind of raised bit at the very back right of the tank. So say if we've got this side profile, the bit that raises up at a really sloped angle, well, because that is so weak in terms of the armor that it actually has, 25mm, any tank that hits that at any sort of angle is going to be able to pen. So often when you're level with someone and you're trying to side scrape against them, if they actually use that to their advantage and they aim for that kind of point on your tank, they can pen you very, very reliably. And if you're in something like an FV 4005 and you're facing a T57 heavy, they'll probably be shooting that. And so side scraping isn't really viable, as well as the fact that as soon as you come back and show them any side of your bit of your cheek of the turret, that's going to be what they see first of your turret, and so they're going to be able to pen. And if you're angling like this, they can hit the back of your turret, which is also really weak as well. So yeah, it's not particularly the best side scraper, neither's the 50B, but that's not what these tanks are about. They're about poking around a corner, dealing the 1600 alpha damage that they get, and then pulling back around, which is why the 57 heavy is just so powerful, because you can choose when you engage a target and when you want to deal that 1600 damage. Say a mouse fires, you know that a mouse has a 8-second reload or whatever it is, I don't know, it's probably more like 12 seconds or something like that. But mouse fires, right, mouse is fired, I've got at least 12 seconds or whatever it is to be able to unload my 1600 alpha damage onto that mouse. Before he reloads, it takes me 6 seconds to deal that damage from 0 to 1600. I'm going to be able to easily put out the damage before he reloads, and then I don't have to take any damage in return. And so they are the ultimate trading tank, and that is why autoloaders are just so strong within the meta, and so why you see them all of the time coming top of the game, where they're dealing consistently high amounts of damage. And that is why I love the 57 heavy and why I went for the 3 marks on it as I did. In terms of the equipment loadout, of course you want to be putting advanced optics to boost up the vision range, outspot opponents, don't get spotted as easily by opponents without you spotting them, allows you to also get things like extra assistance damage, which brings your combined damage total up, and you'll be able to get up to those higher percentages on your marks of excellence if you're that way inclined, or alternatively just provide better spotting for your team, and then they're going to win more likely than, say, if you picked Spall Liner on a 57 heavy, because you're probably never going to be ramming anyone, and yeah, being splashed by Arty, you're in a pretty paper tank anyway, so you're probably going to lose a lot of hit points anyway. Anyway, moving forward, what other ones? Improved ventilation, crew performance plus 5%, because you can't put loader on this, or advanced loader, whatever you want to call it, the rapid loading. You can't put it on an autoloader, so you have to pick something else, and it's either you pick something like crew performance, which I think is quite significant, 5% in a lot of different areas, and then I picked gun stabilizer, because of course when you're unloading every 2 seconds, the bloom of the shell may not get back down to as much as you want, and so if you can increase the accuracy of your tank to be able to deal the damage out consistently against your opponents, you're going to be doing better, aren't you? Because the 20% accuracy buff is so significant in this game. So that is where you want to be going with your equipment. Obviously, you could potentially swap out ventilation or coated optics for something like a traction system to get up to the top speed faster, or to increase the top speed so that you can actually get forward faster. But to be honest with you, you're not that fast anyway, so it's not going to make a massive difference. Given that it's a 10%, you're going to be able to go 38 kilometers an hour. Yes, probably not the most important thing that you have in the game, and so that's why I'd rather consistently deal the damage whenever I get to the position that I want to be doing, and then you don't have to kind of try and run away. So that's what I went with the 57 heavy. Of course, consumables wise, enhanced repair kit. Don't know why I actually went with an enhanced med kit, because must have been when I was full on trying to sweat it out. But we'll go with a basic one, because you don't need 3 premium consumables, unless you went with fuel or something. And then we went with enhanced rations at the end, which is the most important premium consumable in the game, because it is just a flat out 15% crew performance bonus when you use it, and a 10% commander XP bonus, which gives you more commander XP, which isn't massive, but it's the 10% crew performance when it's passive that is really, really important. So there we go. Those are the perks and stuff, so we'll move on to those. Skills wise, Sixth Sense, of course, steady aim. You want rapid loading to be able to really push that damage out as quickly as possible, because obviously you can't put advanced loader on your equipment, so you want to make sure that you have rapid loading on your crew skills. You'll probably want situational awareness, get that view range up, silent driving maybe if you want to reduce the amount of moving, but that's not really necessary on a heavy tank, because I don't think that they actually have any benefit from being stationary anyway. So yeah, you probably don't need that. That's probably because I'm using it on a medium tank, if that makes sense. So this isn't a necessarily 100% spec'd heavy crew one. But you'll probably then want to be having things like the rapid aim, which is 10% increase to turret and gun rotation speed. Actually, no, you don't want that one. You want snapshot, which is the 12% increase to accuracy during turret rotation. You could potentially want run and gun to increase your accuracy when moving, which means that you're just going to basically be more accurate. And that is where the 57 heavy, the 50B, all of the autoloaders really need when you're playing in them. So I would 100% swap out things like green thumb, because you don't really need it. And some of the camo on here, maybe keep camo expertise, because it's just a flat 10% increase. Maybe you want to keep muffled shot, but then again you're firing 4 rounds, so you're probably going to get spotted anyway, regardless of whether or not you want to just stay concealed with 1 shot, because you've got 4 opportunities to get spotted. So yeah, I wouldn't really ever have muffled shot on an autoloader, to be honest, unless you're playing a really sneaky light tank autoloader, if that makes sense. But there we go. Moving on, I think we'll get into some gameplay now. It will be live gameplay, so I have no idea if it's going to go well. Hopefully I'll be able to actually show you the tank itself performing very well, but I can't be promising that, and so we'll get into the game now. You can see us loading in, and I'll meet you when we get into the game. So, as part of our pre-game ritual, what we tend to do is look at the team composition, so what tanks are on the enemy team, so that we can then best make a decision as to what we're probably going to be facing within the game, where we want to be positioning ourselves at the beginning of the game, so that we can maximize the damage that we're going to be dealing. And if that's what you're into, increasing your win rate, dealing more damage, getting more assistance, stuff like that, that is where this tank, and doing that at the beginning of the game is really beneficial. So, for example, what tanks are fast enough to be able to cross this area here, which you see that some of the tanks at the beginning of the game will do? Well, that's going to be more things like the Object 277. You're going to be seeing maybe the 430U, the FE202, stuff like that that could potentially do that, but it's unlikely that they'll particularly get there that fast. You're probably looking at more of the light tanks, if they are there, or any of the fast medium tanks that there are in the game, CS63, etc. Usually you'll spot opponents that do cross, and if you can pre-aim this area down here on highway at the beginning of the game. Now, I'm not saying to just camp here, because yes, that doesn't always work, to be honest with you. You don't want to be just camping, but what you do want to do, if you can, is get people into a position like this, and now we can just unload shells right into the object as we get just penned by the Projecto 66, which is really annoying. We only penned 1 on the object, but we did get a bit of assistance damage, so we can't complain that much. But yeah, it was very, very strange how we didn't actually do any damage. Now, E50, is he still there? Yes, he was. That's why firing when you know that maybe, just maybe, they're not necessarily going to be there. Put 1 into the E50, and unfortunately we don't get another one. But the good thing about this tank is that it does reload so quickly, and when you can deal that damage very, very quickly into your opponents using the autoloader, 2 seconds obviously, it becomes very apparent that you can just get some ridiculous damage games. I've seen people in 57 heavies getting 10,000 damage easily. This is just a tank that really, if you get into the right matchup, you're playing against the right kind of tanks that you don't necessarily have to bounce off of, because the standard penetration with the tank isn't, you know, anything awesome. You aren't going to be able to like just pen the flat cheeks of Mauses with the standard rounds, but what you will be able to do with the 57 heavy is consistently deal damage against medium tanks, against light tanks, against heavies that are lower tier than you. Yes, you'll do that with any tank, but when you've got the autoloader, it does make it dangerous for a lot of the lower tier tanks to be able to try and face you, and that is where we love playing the 57 heavy. Fortunately, we can't get one into the I7 there, which I was really trying to get him out the game, because once we get him out the game, we can kind of do some decent things then. There's a medium tank that's advancing, so he's not in a particularly great position. What we now need to do is take a few hits maybe to be able to get a shot onto the IS-7. We've got a chieftain there who will track, hopefully, which we did, and we'll put one into him, and oh my word. We've managed to ammo-rack him. That was definitely worth waiting for that extra shot. The problem with the British tanks, of course, being that they do always get stumped by the ammo-racks. Now, what we do now need to do is cross down over here. Not necessarily maybe able to take a hit or whatever, but it's really, really crucial that we do that, because now we can defend against the WZ. He's not got anywhere to hide, and so if we can deal with him as quickly as possible, we're going to be able to then move on to try and deal with the FV4202, which is another horrible machine to leave alive because of the DPM that thing gets. We're just constantly spotting now because the artillery is of course behind us, and if he can manage to put on some rounds, do have to be a little bit careful against the enemy artillery, because you know what they're like. But yeah, as long as we can continuously spot, we're going to have an okay game. And you can see that, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to pen these shots unless we get a little bit lucky. But yeah, now what we can do is reload. 20 seconds. Probably didn't realise that we are reloading. Artillery might be able to get another shot on him, and we do need to kind of pressure the WZ as quickly as possible, because if we can get him out of the game, then what we can do then is move up towards the FV4202 over there, and anyone else that might be near who may be pushing me, because at the end of the day, you really don't want to be taking unnecessary hits. So what we'll do, put one into him, put two into him, he's out of the game, and now it's time to go after this FV4202 and then anyone else that may be within this game. So how's it looking in terms of score? Well, there's quite a few tanks that are on low hit points and that we really do need to get out of the game as quickly as possible. FV4202 over here, what we're going to do is take a wide berth, because that will mean he'll have to either expose a lot of his tank, and we don't have to expose very much of our tank if we do decide to do that. So unfortunately Udez is over there, but we don't want to be looking at him because he's not necessarily the most overpowered tank. We do need to pen that, and we miss, of course, and unfortunately get hit by artillery. We've got to play it a little bit careful now, because we are, of course, reloading, but the FV4202 doesn't know that. Do get hit by the UDES, which is a bit unfortunate. Now it's time to really become arty safe, because if we don't do that, it's going to be a real problem. We are going to probably come over the hill here against the FV4202 to just get him out of the game. He's not looking, which is always good, at least in my book. He's fired now, which means we can get one into him. Udez is still over there. Got to be careful for the artillery, who was over that kind of area, I believe. Now it's time to reload. We're going to pop our enhanced combat rations. Hopefully this kind of overview of what I'm thinking constantly is going to help you to decide in your games what you need to be thinking about. So now that we know that the UDES is over there, that the other medium is in the cap, and that the VKP is slow as hell and he's just sat out in the open, well, now we can kind of just come over. We can decide to deal with this guy. We're going to put one into him, not worth staying there to take the hit, because that will leave us on a one shot for everyone else. Artillery is just fired on the enemy team, and now we just have to wait really for our team to be able to get that last damaging hit on the VKP if possible. We're going to move now because the artillery may pre-aim us or may just look for the shot on us, and so it's kind of oh no, he's just yeeted himself. Oh my word. Right, reload, get a full clip, because I don't know how much this UDES is on now. Probably not on a massive amount, but there's me and the Kranvan still left alive, the artillery of course, and if he manages to hit us direct, that is probably going to be enough to take us out if we then get hit by the UDES at the same time. What I'm now expecting the UDES to be doing is falling back, because he is not probably going to be able to take out both of us unless he gets into a hidden position somewhere on the opposite side of the map. And so yeah, we've got to be a little bit careful, because of course if he spots us, which he probably will do because of the view range of that tank, well, we're then going to get outspotted, and it's probably not going to go too well for us. 5,500 damage so far. I don't know if the UDES is going to be down here, or whether he did actually use his brain and try and retreat back to be able to outspot us, and then hope that the artillery can help him out with regards to dealing that extra bit of damage, so that he doesn't then get taken out by us. It appears like he has, so we've got to now be somewhat thoughtful in our approach, because what he wants us to do is of course go straight through the open field, which he's going to outspot us and then be able to get the damaging hit. What I'm thinking of is, because he only has like 200 alpha damage, well, if it means I'm just coming one-on-one with the UDES, what I want to be doing is actually just enabling myself that I'm not going to be possibly able to get hit by the artillery. So that is the key thing here. UDES is then spotted over there. We managed to hit him once, but we don't pen, which is really annoying. Artillery is going to be aiming at us, which is annoying. We're going to reload now because we have missed enough to be able to avoid that. What we don't want is to get hit. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Don't hit us. Don't hit us. Don't hit us, please. Yeah, it's just a case of, especially with the French artillery, not getting hit is something is quite difficult because of their accuracy that those things get. And yeah, looks like the artillery went for a shot on us, and he appears to be over on the left hand side now because he missed us by quite a considerable amount. We're popping our enhanced combat Russians to be able to make sure that we're spotting if we are anywhere near, but yeah, we're going to now try and pressure the cap circle with the Emil if possible to be able to get the victory, because that is the key thing about these games, is if I can pressure the cap circle, they have to come back to try and defend if they want to win the game. And I mean, to be honest with you, you don't have to pressure the cap circle because it's 4-2. We've got the more hit points. We're probably going to win this game regardless of whether or not we try and actually cap or take out all of the enemies. But that is not the mentality I always take. I want to make sure that we seal the victory with the enemies getting all taken out, which is the key aim of standard battle. So it's either capture the base or destroy all enemy tanks, and I'm much more familiar with the latter. I'd much prefer that within the game, and it definitely helps with learning the game later on. Anyway, 7,000 total damage, well, nearly 8,000 total damage combined if we add them all, which is a good game in the 57 heavy. Probably would go up on your marks of excellence regardless of what percentage you're at. So yeah, it's always kind of key, I guess, in terms of trying to just progress yourself and get somewhere as fast as possible. We're going to take the time to aim. We're going to put one into him, and we have enough now to be able to full health the UDES should we need to full health him. The one thing that we do have to be careful of course, having just 8 rounds left, is not running out of rounds by derping our shots or whatever we manage to do. Is the UDES going to be over here? No, he's not. He's actually progressing quite harshly, or not harshly I should say, but he's progressing quite fast over towards us, and we're going to jump in the cap circle now. He's going to then think, well, I need to come back to cap the base, but trust me guys, I am not the one to be capping within a game like this. That's not my key aim within life, is to cap bases. So we're going to wait and hope that he comes over to us. And hopefully, just hopefully, the Kranvang will actually follow us over here, because the last thing I want is to be running out of ammo right before the UDES manages to pick us up or damage us or whatever it is. But it looks like we're not going to be able to get any more damage on the UDES, and he's going to get taken out by the Kranvang there. So fantastic game, a decent one to show off the 57 heavy, tell you exactly why the 57 heavy is a great tank that you'll probably want to pick up. There is only going to be one gameplay, and I think the video is long enough as it is, but it really does showcase why the 57 heavy is just one of my favourites within the game. We are of course going to have a look at the post-game results. We've got a mastery badge, which I'm not that surprised about. We're on 2 marks because of I haven't played this since, you know, the 5% decrease in marks because of the maps or whatever it was. Undergod, Bruiser, Spotter, all of the various different medals. Picked up 5,800 damage, 2,500 assistance, 4 enemies destroyed, and trust me, this is the tank that I got my tier 10 pools medal in. Yeah, it's just a brilliant tank to be playing, and certainly one of the better ones within the game. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you want to check out other World of Tanks gameplay and tutorials and how to get better and all of the various different things, you can check that out on screen right now. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your weekend as of the recording of this video. Thank you very much. Goodbye.